Hi, welcome to Relish Books. Today I want to talk about children's literature and a particular kind, a particular age range, I guess, even though I don't really like age ranges, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I cannot overemphasize, it cannot be overemphasized, the importance of children reading good literature. I want to speak very strongly against this idea. Of course, we don't want children reading bad stuff. I'm just assuming that. We're just going to assume that. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, people have this idea that if it's a kid's book, basically, if it's clean, it's good and it's fine for them to read. That is so not the case most of the time. Just because something is clean, just because it doesn't have something bad in it, does not make it good literature. And literature for children is possibly even more important than literature for adults. Reading shapes who we are, and very much so at a young age. So my idea for doing this video came from a conversation I was having with my two younger sisters. We have a book club together, but we also, they asked me the other day, I started thinking about this from the question they asked, if you had to recommend 3 must-read children's books to the ages between 6 and 10, what would they be? And that's really hard, just picking 3. So I included those today, but I also included their answers. Every book that I'm going to talk about today, I have read. Not all of them are my absolute favorites, but you need a wide variety because different books are going to resonate with different children. And 6 to 10 is a pretty big age range because some 6-year-olds, or most 6-year-olds, are not going to be reading the stuff that 10-year-olds can read. But there are some cases where 6-year-olds will read stuff that maybe other kids won't be ready for till they're 10. So you would have to use discretion with whatever child you're working with. I really don't like age restrictions or age brackets on books, like when you see the 10 to 12-year-olds or whatever. I really don't like that, but I understand it. It's an average. But you have to be aware whether you're a parent or a teacher or an aunt or uncle, or you just have influence with children in your life, or you might have children someday. The most important thing is to just be aware of what stage that they're at, or maybe what they might be ready to try. So, you never know. Like, this is nebulous in a sense, but I made a list of some really good children's books. So if you have that kid like I was, who just never has enough to read, I didn't learn to read till a later age, but once I did, I just wanted to read more and more, and sometimes you can run out because as an adult, as a parent or whatever, you want to be somewhat discriminating about what your child reads, but at the same time, if they're just asking to read stuff all the time, it can be hard to find good stuff. But it's really, really important to not just be like, okay, this is a kid's book. I checked it out. It's clean, so it's fine. Once in a while, some junk food books. Adults want junk food books. Kids want junk food books. Sometimes that's fine. But overall, I think it's very, very important to be intentional that children are reading good books. And in line with my channel, I think classic children's books are mostly the way to go because you know that they are going to be good, and not just good because they're clean, but actually good. But I made sure to also include several modern authors on this list in case, I don't know, if you want to incorporate different things, that's just good too. So this is my list. It's definitely not complete. It's just a small list of books that came to mind that were really good or really important me and my sisters were talking about like books that shaped our lives as children. And so they included their choices. And the three that I picked were not necessarily ones that, they weren't all ones that like really shaped my childhood necessarily, but I think certainly could. Like, I think they're important. Just solid, good books. So my three that I said, just off the top of my head, just answering their question, I picked Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and, what was my third? The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. And that one was interesting because I didn't read that till I was an adult, but reading it, I could tell that I would have loved it as a kid, and I wish that I had read it as a kid. I mean, I loved it as an adult, but I wish that I had read it as a child. So those were my three. Their three picks were James and the Giant Peach, also by Roald Dahl, The Gamage Cup by Carol Kendall, which I kind of wish I'd put on mine because that's one of my all-time favorite books. I read that so many times when I was a kid, just over and over again. And I also feel like it's not super well known, but it's a great story, kind of fantasy, small town. It's just a really, really great story. Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne, which to me, I didn't put that on mine just because it's such a classic to me. And I also was thinking of it for maybe even younger kids, but it's great for all ages. The Search for Delicious by Natalie Babbitt was one of theirs. Not my favorite, but again, people have different tastes. The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Obviously a huge classic. Again, not one of my favorites anymore, but I did like it when I was a kid. Is that all? I feel like I'm missing one. Anyway, I'm going to go through this list, and if I missed any, it's going to be on here as well. But Roald Dahl is, just to talk about authors a bit, Roald Dahl is not someone that I would just check out all his books and give them to my kids. He can tend to, some of his humor is kind of nasty, and he gets some hatred nowadays for some of his humor, some of his stuff. But you can't deny he has some amazing books, some of the best children's books ever written. The three that I put on this list, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, and Danny, Champion of the World, which is a bit of a different one, but I think it's really, really good. Definitely influenced my life, I felt like. Great book. And really good for those ages, too. They can be enjoyed by younger to older. Another great author that I would recommend, I think, just anything written by him. And I don't know how to say his name. I don't remember what nationality he is either, but he has a difficult name. Minder Dijon. I don't know how to say that properly, but anything written by him is amazing. It's great for that age, even to a little bit older probably. One of my sister's books was one of his, Hurry Home Candy. That one's really good. It's like a dog story. He does a lot of animal stories, but not all of them are animal stories. Just amazing. My favorite of his, I think, is The Wheel on the School. But House of 60 Fathers is really good. Journey from Peppermint Street. Along Came a Dog. Any books by him are going to be really, really good. Just classic, great children's books by Minder Dijon. Little House series, of course, and not just for girls, for guys too. Not all boys are probably going to be into it, but a lot of them will be. It's adventures, moving in the West. It's also history, so it's really important for understanding what things were like back then. Classic for a reason. Really great. Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Another classic that's just great. I love E.B. White because he was an essayist, and reading his adult essays are excellent. He's just a stunning writer, and I love that he used that for children's literature as well because it's really great. A Bear Called Paddington by Michael Bond. I would not read the whole series. It gets to be too much, too repetitive. It's kind of just the same thing over and over. But the first one is really good. It's really fun. I really recommend reading lots of books from different cultures as well. There's a lot of English literature on here, as in British, but American as well, and finding ones from other cultures is great. I know I didn't read it growing up, but I've read a little bit of the Moomin books by Tove Jansson, and those are really, really interesting. I'm not sure how I would have loved them as a kid, but some kids would probably definitely love them if they like kind of whimsical stuff. Really good. The Phantom Toll Booth. I think books are so important to give you stories, but also to make you think. And you don't have to understand everything all the time. Just reading something that's wild and wonky is really, really fun, I think, especially for this age. Kate DiCamillo, to get to some newer authors. As I've talked about lots of times before, Kate DiCamillo is my favorite children's author, or favorite current children's author, and one of my favorites just in general. If I had to recommend some top ones from her, Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, like for this age group in particular, the Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, because of Winn-Dixie, that was the first one of hers that I read. I loved it. I still love it. Those ones are probably really good to start with for like this age, but all of her books really. Flora and Ulysses is my favorite. I feel like Flora and Ulysses maybe should be read by a little older children. I don't care what the book says, what ages it says on it. Some of the themes that she deals with in some of her books I feel like should be for a little older, but obviously parents and whoever's in charge can use their discretion. But Kate DiCamillo, great modern children's author. And another more modern children's author that's very hit or miss for me is Sharon Creech. Some of her books are some of the most beautiful children's books, or even just books that I have read. Heartbeat, I would put on a top 10 children's books probably. It is so beautiful, so lyrical almost. It's almost written in a poetry style, but it's not going to be difficult in any way for kids. It's just a beautiful little story. They're very short. All of her books are really short. I've tried to read she's written a lot of books. I've tried to read most of them. And yeah, unfortunately, not all of them are good. Sometimes I'm like, she's so good. Any of her books should be so good, but they're not. She has some kind of stinkers, but 3 top ones by Sharon Creech that I would definitely recommend: Heartbeat, The Unfinished Angel, and Bloomability by Sharon Creech. And then I have The Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place. This is a series book. Sometimes series books are really nice for kids because if they're begging for stuff to read, you can give them a series and that'll occupy them for longer than like one of these short single books. It's really fun mostly. I didn't like the last one very much. I think it's a 6 series book. Up to number 5 is really good. I kind of wish the last one had gone differently, but it's good. And I think it's good for this age. Maybe a little older. Most 10-year-olds, I think, would be fine with it. It's mostly just a lot of fun. Really great characters. It's just enjoyable. It's adventurous, but it's not dark or not too dark. It's very humorous. Just a good series. To go back to classics, Understood Betsy by Dorothy Canfield Fisher. It's a beautiful book. Very important, I think. Yeah, really, really, really good. Probably more for girls. And again, me and my sisters were having this conversation. I feel like most of these books can definitely be for either, but kids are probably going to have preferences. That one might be more for girls, but it's just a really, really good book. And then as far as like junk food books, I have on here a series that we enjoyed when we were kids was The Boxcar Children, but I would really only recommend the first 19 because only the first 19 are by the original author, and after that they just get so blah. They're very basic, very mediocre, really. just your simple mystery series where the kids solve the mysteries and all the adults are like really unintelligent basically. But I think it's a better series and more well written and more wholesome than something like Nancy Drew or maybe the Hardy Boys. But just for like a junk food kind of read, there's a lot of them and they're pretty good. I would say the Boxcar Children. I know that all of my siblings, I think, enjoyed those. So that is all I have for this list. It's really just a beginning list. A reminder that there's classic children's literature as well as adults, and it's really, really important for kids to read good books because it shapes their minds, it can shape their lives, and yeah, it's really important to be intentional in giving your kids good books to read. And then maybe, of course, they're going to develop their own tastes. And they're going to be like, I want more books like that one, but not like that one. And that's fine too. Just make sure that it's good, not just fine, not just mediocre. I mean, that's better than bad, but it's not doing anything for them. Good books, good literature is extremely, extremely important. And yeah, these are some books that shaped my life, shaped my sister's lives. And so I just wanted to share those today. And I might do a part 2 where I talk about a group of children's books for the next stage up. But I don't know. I would like to expand this list. Obviously, I've left so much out. It's hard to try to remember everything that you read as a kid, but I would love to hear what you guys loved as kids, and so I can add it to the list. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.